Glenn, a frustrating one this afternoon, 23-18 defeat to Bedford. We probably had enough chances to win that game twice, but just a slight lack of concentration towards the end, and it's cost us. What are your thoughts after that one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously pretty frustrating, obviously, day at the office for us. I think actually, we look back, and if we win that game by a couple of points, we probably actually thought that we played really well, because actually we did some really good stuff with the ball at times, and even without the ball as well. I think it comes down to a couple of key moments in the game. I think maybe we just spoke as a group then about how maybe we were a little bit naive with some of our decision making at times on there. We opt for a couple of scrums when maybe a better option would be gone to go into the corner, and hindsight's a great thing in it, but I think we're obviously a bit disappointed at the moment, but when we watch it back, I think we might even get more so frustrated, because like you say, we left a load of chances out there. But on the other side of it, I don't think you can take anything away from Bedford as well. I actually thought they played really well today as well and put us under huge pressure, and ultimately deserved the win as well. Yeah,
it was a funny old game. When we look back at it stats wise, we probably had the majority of the possession, and certainly in the second half we were in there 22 for kind of vast periods of it. I guess that's the main one for you as a coach to say to the players, is that we kind of have to take the chances when they arrive, and unfortunately today we just perhaps didn't quite do that.
Yeah, no, massively. I think ultimately it's about being clinical, isn't it, when you get down there, and our conversion rate wasn't anywhere near where it needs to be. We did really well to put ourselves in great scoring opportunities into the 22, and we have a knock on, or someone blows their roll in the line out, and we knock on at the base of the scrum, and suddenly there's 3 or 4 chances there have gone amiss. But the pleasing thing that we can focus on positively is we're creating them. But actually, boys, we want to be clinical every time we get in there, and if we're looking to aspire to try and go to the next level, then those chances won't come as much, and you have to be able to take them every time. And the boys know that as well. They're in the huddle there, and you can tell they're frustrated, and I'd rather have that and be in the huddle afterwards that boys are disappointed than sort of thinking, well, it's just another game. Well, it wasn't. You can tell, and I think that's testament to maybe where the squad's growing at the minute as well, and we've got to keep the pressure on one another, and I thought Rain spoke really well in the huddle afterwards about the desire and all the things that maybe you can't coach were there. It's just like you say, being clinical, taking those opportunities and being accurate every time we get them.
Yeah, well, the game perhaps summed up. Obviously went 10-0 down early. I guess that was a slow start, was perhaps to be expected after a few weeks without a game. Got ourselves right back into it, and then just 2 minutes before half time, a couple of penalties, they go 6 points up, and then we were kind of fighting against it again. Just little kind of areas of frustration that I guess kind of linger over that one.
Yeah, well, I think you give 2 dual penalties away for offside or not being within 10 on the kick, and there's 6 points gone straight away, and for the team not having the opposition not having to work particularly hard to get them, and when every game is close, everyone, it's a competitive league, and we've had 3 weeks off. Bedford had 3 weeks off. They're obviously itching to get back out there today. I think we just got to be sort of white over white and make teams have to sort of really work for their points, and we spoke about trying to become tough to beat, using that as a bit of a mantra, and if we're giving teams easy points, it's frustrating, and the players feel it as well, but ultimately we can't be doing it because it's just too easy, and me and Warren sat up there and we're frustrated, and players are frustrated with it, but it's just sort of making sure that, I know sometimes we're keen to get off the line, we want to make hits, we're talking about trying to have a dominant defence, but actually we've got to make sure we're a yard off the offside line, and that's almost really with the mind, the mental side of the game, that actually we're keen to put physical performance in, but actually we've got to be cool upstairs as well, and I think that reflected in some of our maybe decision making that I said earlier as well, maybe a little bit naive at times with some of the options we took, but we can go back in there and we can review that, and hopefully we can learn from that and come better out of it.
Yeah, we eventually scrambled ourselves in front with about 15 minutes to go from that maul. I guess players deserve a lot of credit for the fact that they just stuck in there, didn't they? Didn't allow the frustrations to get ahead of them, and we did go in front, albeit for a brief period of time, but we did well to certainly get our noses back in it.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I think testament to the players that actually pulled themselves out there. We didn't panic. We stuck to the game plan that we spoke about all week, and fair play to the boys for doing that, because other times we may have got flustered. I thought Rain did really well to keep the control in there with the boys, and I thought we'd actually put ourselves in a great position at that point. It was a proper game of rugby today. A real, we already sort of spoke in the huddle then saying it was a real game. Both teams going right at it with one another, and then they, it comes down to maybe the odd, they break up here on this left-hand side, and they're under the sticks, and then suddenly we're back behind again, and it's just wrestling those moments of momentum, and ultimately it comes down to us being clinical, which we weren't enough of, unfortunately, today.
Yep, how important is it for us to respond next week? Back at home against London Scottish, we've got an awful lot of games coming up in the next kind of 2-3 months, so it'd be important for us to get straight back into it next week, won't it?
Yeah, well, massive. I mean, Scottish had a very good result last night against Hartbury. I think they put 28-5 or something like that, so that's a great result for them, and it's another sort of London derby game again, isn't it? And there's a few boys playing for them. It used to be at Ealing, that always adds a little bit of spice. So no, I think it's massively important for us to get back on the side. I just sort of spoke to the boys in the huddle then and said, listen, this it's not season's not over by any stretch of the imagination. There's still plenty to play for. Naturally we're going to be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'll be disappointed tomorrow. But then we've got to come back in on Monday and we've got to be hungry to learn and improve again, because we've got a huge challenge with Scottish. And I think if we can do that most weeks, we're still a squad that's growing. Yeah. We had quite a big turnover of players last year. And I think we're starting to gel, and I think it's important that we're on that journey and that we are growing. Obviously we want to be winning games, we don't want to be losing it, but it's important that when we do lose them that we can learn from that and we can sort of bounce straight back from it. And I know the guys will come in on Monday ready to work, ready for a huge game against Scottish. Yeah,
let's just end on a positive note. In terms of selection for next week, plenty of quality from the bench today, the likes of Alex Lundberg coming on, big carries, Ben Landry. Looked like we had some real kind of impetus in that second 40, didn't we?
Yeah, no, I thought the physicality, the bench sport was fantastic. I mean, some of the off the ball work as well, some of the work rate that was in there as well, stuff that maybe actually necessarily you don't see all the time because you get quite ball focused, but sort of work rate, speed back into position. Corndog, I thought, did a real great real unselfish line that led to a line break. And I think the bench were fantastic for us today. And Landry's been out for so long as well, so it was great to see him come back in. He had that physicality and intensity before he got injured, and that thumb injury put him out for a little bit of time. So it's great from a coaching perspective because you have a couple of headaches in that. But I think when you've got the competition for places, it's only going to push one another to go. And I think the group are growing and are trying to push one another hard. I know there's a lot of people that aren't even involved today as well that want to be here, and that's only going to bode well. But it makes obviously our Monday morning conversation with the coaching team a little bit more difficult. But we'd rather that than the team picking itself all the time.
Jordan, a real frustrating one this afternoon. We had plenty of possession, plenty of chances in that game, but probably weren't quite clinical enough, and we leave Goldington Road with a 5-point defeat. Give us your thoughts after that one.
Yeah, we were saying in the green zone we definitely weren't clinical enough. We probably had a ton of green zone entries, and we just couldn't get over the line. We had a lot of pressure on them, and I think it was one breakaway try in that second half which put them in the lead.
Does that show the importance of what it sounds silly, really, just taking your chances? I mean, Bedford didn't get out there 22 for probably about half an hour of that second half, but we just couldn't quite get over the line. It just was one of those afternoons, it just wasn't quite happening for us.
Yeah, you got to take your chances when they come. You can't squander any. As they took their chance and they got their try, and ultimately that gave them the win and only gave us 1 point today.
When we look back at the game as a whole, Bedford obviously went 10-0 up after just kind of 6-7 minutes. So I guess after a few weeks that was perhaps to be expected, a bit of a slow start, but we certainly fought our way back in with your try and then a penalty to go 10-all. It was looking pretty rosy at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, we started the game pretty slow. 3 weeks off playing, so a bit rusty, but we built our way back in. We had a lot of field territory, and our kicking game was really good, but in that second half we just couldn't put them away, and with the territory we had, we should have been able to.
Those chances came our way in the second half. The one that created by Dave Johnston for you to score in the first half was kind of showed how we almost needed to play that game, just couldn't quite recreate it, but that was a great moment and one that brought us level. So I guess when we look back at it, that'll be one of the main positives.
Yeah, it was good to get a try against the old team, but we just weren't good enough today. Few too many knock-ons and just weren't clinical enough with the ball.
Those kind of 5 minutes before half-time as well, it looked like we got ourselves back into, we were level, and then just a couple of sloppy penalties. Are they perhaps a little bit frustrating looking back?
Yeah, really frustrating. When we have them in their own half, we can't afford to give away sloppy penalties to give them easy field position. That's our fault. We'll look at that on Monday, and then we'll say we'll have to respond against Scottish next week.
It's the old classic of when a kind of team goes in front. We eventually managed to scramble ourselves in front with about 15 minutes to go. It seemed like it was never going to happen, but it did. But then 2 minutes later, they just kind of break away in the midfield. It just kind of summed up the afternoon for us, really, didn't it?
Yeah, they throw the old bounce pass, works a treat, and we say they took their chance when it came, and we didn't.
I guess the important message after that is not to dwell on this. We've got lots of games coming up. London Scottish at home next week, so a chance to get right back into it.
Yeah, we can't dwell on it too much. We have to start looking forward to next week against Scottish. We have to respond with a good performance and try and get a win.